Hello once again. Good day and good life to you. Another controversial subject. If you haven't noticed by now, I do not shy away from any subject. Nothing is off limits. And I talk about what is important to me, but also what I get the feeling for in many people, what many people are talking about. This is certainly a hot button topic, and that is vaccines, given the current health situation. Now, like any other subject, it is not just one way. There is not just one way of looking at things ever. So this is another one where a lot of people just have a sort of one-dimensional view of this. They're either pro or against. And that's never the only way of seeing anything. And as I see it, from a neutral perspective, both sides of that are actually limited and ignorant about certain different things. And that's kind of the power of being in a neutral state. You can see more of the positive and negative. Whereas if you're just on one of those tracks, if you're just, on the positive side or the negative side, it's harder to see the other ways. Now again, this is sort of an oversimplification because nothing is, just positive, negative, or neutral. Everything is all of those ways. And again, that's just sort of a trinary way of looking at things. There's even more dimensionality than that. There's more of a spectrum. But in this case, for simplification and the sake of the limitations of language, we'll say there's sort of a positive, negative, and neutral way of looking at everything. In other words, nothing has built-in meaning or perspective. It's all different things to different people. It's all, infodimensional, more complex. So as I see it, these ways of looking at things being 100% for, 100% against are limited viewpoints that lack certain information in order to understand why other people think and see things differently. So let's start with the pro. People who are extremely pro-vaccine. The way I see it, they are in a sense ignorant of why other people are against it, and just as the people who are against it are often ignorant of the reasons that people are for them. Or often not. Sometimes people understand why it just doesn't fit in with their particular belief system or point of view. So, you can recognize that something is objectively not what you prefer while still recognizing that it is what other people prefer. So again, there's more of a spectrum than just being for and against something. So the reasons why some people are very, very pro-vaccine are that their belief system operates thinking that it serves them. That's why everyone does everything, really, because they think it serves them. And in this case, they believe that it contains certain things that will boost their immune system and make them healthier and society at large healthier. That's why some are trying to impose that on other people, which we'll get into later. But fundamentally, what they are not recognizing that other people who are against vaccines are aware of is that in some cases, vaccines have been tampered with, or they contain other ingredients other than what they think are in them. Or in some cases, it's complete ignorance of what's in them. They're just doing it because that's what other people are doing, and they're trying to go along to get along. It's their path of least resistance, and that's fine. But recognize ultimately why the placebo effect works in taking other such medications is that it's really you that are having the effect on you, and you're simply using these other things as catalysts or permission slips because it's part of your belief system or path in order to learn and teach different things. But ultimately, there have been some negative influences and negative reasons why certain entities, groups they have negative intentions with vaccines in terms of again, putting in unsavory ingredients like mercury, animal DNA, industrial chemicals, nanites. This is just a short list of some of the things that have been in some vaccines that other people are not aware of. So on the other side of the spectrum, or the argument, the people who are completely against vaccines are often more aware of this. They're aware that some negative-minded people have used these, such as in the case of like a Trojan horse, for example, which is where it is a gift that has been weaponized in a sense, where there is something nefarious within it. It's not all that it seems to be. There are, intentions in order to, again, there are various intentions for this. I'm not going to get into. I don't want to promote them. But so the people who are against vaccines can be more aware of these things, but again, they are ignorant, or they're lacking perspective of the idea that there can be positive uses for vaccines as well, such as upgrading DNA. That is one way that is done. And there are also some, vaccines that are generally more positive. Again, that actually do have good intentions of helping people and all that. But again, ultimately, it's up to the individual. Your beliefs are so powerful. If you believe something will harm you, then that's you, in a sense, harming yourself. If you believe something will help you, that is, again, you helping yourself, in a sense. So fundamentally, people's beliefs and definitions generate their experiences. So these other substances, again, are sort of neutral in a sense, meaning it's people that are creating the results and effects, but they're using these as, again, permission slips, catalysts, aids. I'll use myself as an example in that I haven't had a vaccine since my parents gave them to me when I was a child, so decades ago, and I am rarely sick. And I don't get, the seasonal flu shot or anything like that, because I know that my immune system is solid and that I take care of myself nutritionally and get exercise. And on the rare occasions when I have been sick, I just take Emergency, which is all natural ingredients, and it boosts your immune system through essential vitamins and minerals like vitamin C, D, B, zinc, magnesium, etc. You know what's in it. You don't have to wonder about the ingredients or where they came from, which is a big issue for a lot of people, putting things into their bodies that they don't know what they are and how your body reacts to them, both in pharmaceuticals and in foods and other things as well. It's a big lesson that people are going to have to learn to be more discerning. And also to remember, when you do learn things like that forgiveness is such a powerful healing tool as well. To forgive others who are trying to do nefarious things to you. And that's another thing. You will notice that I don't pay much attention to mainstream media at all. I haven't in years, since I learned how manipulated it is and how it's used by certain groups and entities for their own agendas, which do not really serve other people other than themselves. But I do occasionally check in and hear and watch mainstream media casually through, or hear about it through other sources, people who talk about it. And every single time I hear it, it always talks about the vaccine or vaccines in general as the only way to be healthy. I never hear them mention the importance of nutrition and positive mentality. It is always, the vaccine is our only hope, and as soon as we get that, then everything will be great. That is pure marketing. And they want you to feel, the people who have created these and are putting them out there want people to feel like they are incomplete without a vaccine. That is really the only perspective I ever hear in mainstream media. That is obvious propaganda when it doesn't give any other perspective other than this is the best thing to do and there's no other way, and it completely ignores such obvious, important subjects like nutrition, vitamins, exercise, and psychology, like what you think, stress. It never brings up any of those, as if a vaccine is going to suddenly change the stress in your life. So that's quite telling and quite suspicious, and more people should be suspicious of that, especially considering they're obviously They don't trust, a lot of people don't trust governments and corporations, and yet somehow they've convinced people, oh no, this is going to work. This is what you need. You can trust us now with what we're injecting into you, and we're trying to get everyone to take. Oh no, all of a sudden we're perfect and we'll never get this wrong. It's laughable, and also sad at the same time that people can't see through marketing and tricks like this. They're really not thinking for themselves. They're just going along with what these perceived authorities say and what's been pumped into their heads day after day, watching the same media over and over. It's reinforcing this idea. And again, if you're calling someone a name like an anti-vaxxer, then that means they can call you a name like a vaxxer. But either way, you're calling someone a name, which is a fundamentally childish thing to do. It's not mature, so it reflects that your perspective is not mature on the subject. It means you're only seeing them or that subject from a very limited perspective. And notice how many vaccines there already are. They keep coming up with them all the time, and yet do people seem to be getting healthier, or is there a huge health crisis going on right now? So the question must be asked, how much are they helping? It seems that every year after this round of flu shots, tons of people get the flu. So my question would be, since the flu shots come before flu season, are they actually making it worse? I know that, weather plays a factor in it in terms of, people's immune systems being affected by cold weather and all that. So it's seasonal in that regard. But also people know that some of these flu shots actually contain a small degree of the flu virus in them. So people are actually infecting themselves with the thing that they're trying to not get, which seems just crazy to me. I understand the general idea behind it, to give you a little bit of something for your body to adapt to it, but still, it's like saying, okay, I'm just going to put a little bit of poison in this water so I build up an immunity to poison. Is that what you really want, or do you really want clean water? People are literally poisoning themselves and making them sick so that they don't get sick. Where's the logic in that? It's like saying, I'm going to go hang out in a nuclear reactor for a bit so I can build up an immunity to radiation by giving myself radiation. Again, people's beliefs are incredibly powerful and deterministic in terms of what they experience, as is implied in the phrase mind over matter, which is why I recognize that vaccines work for some people because they believe they do, but not for everyone. So you can't force everyone to follow some people's beliefs. Just like with penicillin, to some people it helps them, to others it'll kill them. You can't say, we need to give everyone penicillin. Obviously that's ridiculous. So why is it being allowed here? Why is it being proposed this way? That it's the only path for all people. And in some crazy parallel realities, it's being made mandatory in terms of some people aren't going to be able to travel to certain places or interact with certain people unless they've had a vaccine. Well, that's just really, really negative, really closed-minded, very controlling. And really those who feel they must impose their will on others are not strong, they're actually weak, because they believe they have to do that, which actually reflects fear in them. I don't push my agenda or beliefs on anyone else. I share them because I know that other people share them as well. You're never the only one who has a particular belief or idea or way of seeing things. There are always others who share your views, and there are always others who don't share them. There are always others who see things differently. So it's really unfeasible to insist that everyone has the same views, because they're always changing, and there are always different ones. And in a sense, everyone is their own point of view in the universe. In a sense, everyone is their own universe. So if you're imposing your will on others, that sort of opens the door for some to impose their will on you. You're sort of authorizing that through your own behavior. Because if others should have your will imposed on them, then there are others who think that they should impose their will on you. And I'm pretty sure that the people who are doing that don't want it done to them. Think about it. Most people recognize that eating healthy is good for you and good for your health, yet that's not mandatory. Obviously, people have different definitions of what healthy food is. This is the same thing. How can you make everyone do something? You can't really. So all this focus is on a vaccine as the savior of mankind, yet all of these other more important subjects like health, vitamins and minerals and nutrients, and exercise and positive thinking and reducing your stress, none of those are covered ever by these, quote, doctors and authority figures. It's all about the vaccine and who's made it, what's in it. Does anyone, do you know, or are you just getting it without any idea of what's being put in your body? So I gotta tell you, that's not the smartest move. Now again, you can't call me any of these names because, like I said, I recognize that some vaccines can have positive attributes, but others, a lot of them have negative attributes. So you really can't call me any name because I'm neither of those categories. I'm more discerning. I recognize the truth is more nuanced than that, well, it's just 100% good or 100% bad. It's too simplistic, too one-dimensional. I'm trying to expand people's minds and consciousness and definitions. But just notice how this subject is being portrayed in media as if it's the only thing that can help us. Again, I am rarely sick, and I never take vaccines or flu shots. As of right now, I don't remember the last time I was sick. It's been over a year. But again, getting a cold every now and then is no big deal, and it's not going to make me rush out and start pumping my body full of whatever is in these vaccines. I take care of myself nutritionally. I'm eating healthy. I'm helping others. I'm staying positive. That's a big part of health, actually. And a lot of the media that people are watching is not helping with that. It's actually keeping people very negative with news that's about violence and division and racism. So not only is diet important from a food sense, but also I frequently recommend a media diet for a lot of people because the media that they are absorbing is just as unhealthy as the food they're eating. And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that food and media and water and pretty much everything else you can imagine has been manipulated by certain entities and people and groups, and that obviously includes vaccines. Some call it a strategy of full spectrum dominance, meaning anything and everything can be weaponized, and it has been. I know some people have heard of the historical precedent of blankets being infected with smallpox given to Native American tribes in order to wipe them out. That is another example similar to a Trojan horse where something is presented as a gift and yet it actually has been weaponized to harm people. I'm sure a lot of people are not aware of that. I've talked to people who have never heard of that before, but just look up blankets with smallpox and you will find that as a historical precedent for the same thing which is being done over and over in different forms. Now it's just being injected into people rather than given to them as blankets. But again, before you call me any names, recognize that I have said and am saying again that some vaccines can actually be positive. I recognize that being anti-anything is inherently negative. You're against something as opposed to understanding why some people do it and it works for them because they think it serves them. And in some cases it can be positive, but not in all cases and not for everyone. So this is where mandating and imposing rules on everyone does not work. It has never worked and it never will work. You can't really do that. So there are people who are trying to do that, but that doesn't mean they will be successful with that. Ultimately, people's paths and decisions are up to them. That's why I've covered sort of the spectrum of viewpoints on this, so you can understand that it's not just your way of seeing things, and it's not just other people's way of seeing things. It's every way of seeing things that is valid and real to individual experiences, and that people are creating their own experiences through their beliefs and definitions. My intention is sort of to unite or lessen the divide between the perceived sides of this argument. This is, more expansive, more inclusive, more understanding of other people's choices and behaviors, beliefs. So wherever you fall on this spectrum, recognize and allow other people to have their points of view. Because if you don't allow them to have their point of view, why should they allow you to have your point of view? Just because something works for you does not mean it works for everyone. You do not know what's best for everyone else. Why would that be the case? That doesn't make any sense. Why would you be the one who knows what's best for everyone in the universe? You can only know what's best for you. And what other people do is not up to you, that's up to them. That really shouldn't be controversial to anyone. It's just the way things are. Some people are just in different stages of awareness of that. But everyone's path and preferences are self-determined. They're not governed by anyone else. You can use other people as examples or guides, but your path is up to you, and their path is up to them. And you will notice when people try to impose their beliefs on others, there is always resistance, because that is not a good way of doing things. And you are, in a sense, violating a primary law of existence. Now, the consequences may not show up right away, but eventually you will learn them and experience them. So this is really about the old adage, live and let live. What works for one does not necessarily work for another. One person's trash is another's treasure. So it's all, up to different perspectives and points of view. And allowing them is really a much more empowered sense of being. Remember that judgment, like everything else, is coming from within you. When you let go of that, when you stop doing that, you feel a lot better. You're no longer as scared or disempowered. You no longer feel you have to control other people so much, or yourself even so much. You just go with the flow and act on your own passion and excitement and do what feels right to you, and allow other people to do the same. Because again, their lives are not up to you. You can only act for yourself. You cannot be responsible for others. You can only be responsible to them, in the sense of being yourself and doing what's right for you, showing them an example of what they could do, but not insisting that that's the way that they must do it. It is giving them an opportunity rather than forcing them to do what you're doing. Because imagine, you wouldn't like it when others do that to you. If others imposed what works for them onto you, people don't like that. Some of these people who are extremely pro-vaccine, in a sense, are disempowered. They do not believe that their own immune system is capable of making them and keeping them healthy. And so there is sort of a negative perspective to being pro-vaccine, just as there can be a positive perspective to being anti-vaccine, and vice versa. Again, it's much more complex than just positive, negative on either side of the argument. And again, you can see more of that complexity and more the nuance when you are in the neutral state, when you recognize that both sides have their validity and both sides have their reasons. And this applies to any argument, really, what people call, left or right or conservative, liberal, whatever it is. Recognize these are just labels that people use that do not absolutely 100% define them. They're simply judgments, in a sense, archetypal identities, ways of seeing them that are not the only way of seeing them. So when you stop calling people names and you stop judging them, then you can start to see more and understand more and know more why they do what they do, and also to clarify and understand better why you do what you do. And it allows you the opportunity to change and adapt, rather than say, this is the only way, and 100% of the time for everyone. That is a very rigid, unflexible way of seeing things that ultimately holds you back. I know that will help some people relax their definitions and impositions against others, their judgments against others, and to help some people understand where others are coming from, because that's really what causes a lot of friction and conflict, is just simply a lack of understanding or empathy, compassion, recognition, why other people believe and act the way that they do. So thank you very much for watching. If you have gotten something out of this, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing this with others. and spreading this information, this point of view, to help others, which is my intention. And until the next exciting, relevant topic, I wish you good health and good life. Take care.